Order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District, February 14th, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. And can we please get members present?
Manufo Leah Inga Anuai.
Here.
Aaron Rashba.
Here.
Anthony Sujisaka is absent. Andrea Jordan.
Here.
Shakil Ali.
Here. And Mr. Lauro, we'll ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next, we have board member acknowledgements and commendations, and I'll start on my right.
Thank you for being here on this stormy Wednesday. Some of my roof flew off earlier today. And so I'm very grateful that the rain has not gotten in might when I get home. So I just want to say that I have great appreciation for everyone who's taken the time to be present, and happy Valentine's Day for those of you who celebrate it. Great to be here.
Thank you. Also wanted to wish everybody in the district happy Valentine's Day. Happy to be spending it with you all and sharing in the love we have of education and our district. And wanted to wish everybody a good upcoming break week next week from school. Thank you.
I have no commendations.
And I will also pass. Superintendent comments.
Yes, good evening. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone as well, and happy Black History Month. I have quite a few comments to make, so bear with me. First of all, actually, I'd like to congratulate Trustee Leah Iga Anuai for being selected for School Board Partners National Fellowship. She was one of 99 trustees selected across the country, and the fellowship empowers school board members with the knowledge, mentorship, community, and policy support to address the needs of their district and students. So congratulations. A couple other updates I want to share, two updates. One on the power outages as we talk about storms. We had a big storm last week. So last week's storm caused 4 of our schools to lose power last Monday. We were able to rent additional generators to power the schools within a day, thanks to the quick thinking of Bill Heath, our Director of Facilities, Operations, and Bond Projects, who worked tirelessly during the storms to ensure our sites were safe for students and staff. And also thank you to our IT manager, Joel Sanchez, who also worked late nights during the storm to ensure our servers were connected and working for all our schools to have online access. Although it's difficult to predict the weather and which schools will lose power, we do have 2 district-owned generators that can keep us up and running, especially our district office as command center during emergencies. The San Mateo County Office of Education also has clear protocols for determining when to close schools that we will use as a tool in the future. And our goal is to keep schools open and only close them when absolutely necessary in extreme circumstances. Another event I want to share with you, another update. Many of you heard about our transitional kindergarten and kindergarten registration event. In early February, our district was a victim of a cyber attack during that event. And we learned many lessons as a result and have taken corrective action to prevent this from happening again. Unfortunately, what happened was we had shared the direct meeting link on our social media. We were trying to get more families to come and have it easy access for them, but that opened us up to this attack. So one of the lessons learned was to have a 2-step process for getting people into those meetings, like a QR code or an invitation where they had to sign up or RSVP. So that's something that we're putting in place now. Also, We have updated our Google Meets default setting. We switched from Zoom to Google Meets, and the default settings were a little less restrictive, so we've made them more restrictive. And we've also provided guidance for our administrators to share with staff to make sure people go in and check that those settings are set to restrictive. So we just wanted to apologize again publicly to the community for this incident that happened, and we are better prepared because we know this happens, these attacks happened, and we want to make sure that we're prepared, and we are for the future. So another thing I want to share is this weekend we had a tour of our staff housing, and I think it was nearly 100 staff members came to take a tour of the housing projects and look at what kind of apartments they might want to live in. And so that was really exciting, and we're hoping to open that in mid-April if all goes well with the weather. And then also, just as a reminder, there is no school next week for President's Week. And there is an intercession for some families at Susan B. Anthony that will be open Tuesday through Friday. So you need to have signed up. And I believe it's full at this point. So, and that is all my updates. So thank you.
I have a question, Superintendent McCulick. I think you said that there was an intercession at Susan B. Anthony. I thought there were two intercession, one for Boys and Girls Club and one for YMCA. Are they both at Susan B. Anthony?
There are two intercessions. One is in February and one is in April.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that I was happy to hear about the intercession that we are providing, just in case, people didn't have a plan for that week, and not having their children in school. So I commend the district for doing that. Item 5C, persons wishing to address the board. Do we have any cards? No? Okay. Item 6A, general functions. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Do we have any, I guess there's no resolutions? Okay, perfect. Unanimous. Item 6D, revised governing board meeting dates for 2024. The board will consider adding a regular meeting on February 28th to avoid a delay in the opening of the workforce housing project. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the addition of a regular meeting on February 28th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, unanimously approved. Item 6E, 2024 to 2025 school year district calendar. The administration recommends approval of the district calendar for the 2024-2025 school year. Do we have a motion to approve?
Just want to have one question to Superintendent McCulick, just so that the public is aware. I'm confirming that this calendar coincides with the high school district's calendar, just in case children, we have a community member that has children in both districts.
Yes, the vacations align with the high school district. The start date for students would be August 14th, and the last day of school would be June 6th.
Perfect. If there are no questions, then I'll make a motion to approve the district calendar for 24-25.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
President
Unanimously.
Ali, if I could just make a comment, thank you. We've been trying to do this for many years, creating a level of alignment because of our sister district and families having students with us and with them. And so I know that for a while, we were getting closer and closer. So it's always nice to be able to be aligned. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Educational and Student Services. Item 7C, Contracted Services, Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula, The administration recommends approval of the contract totaling $35,000 with the Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula for 2 intercession programs to be held at Susan B. Anthony School on February 20th to 23rd and April 8th to 12th. The intercession programs will be funded by the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. Do we have a motion to approve?
Sorry, now I have a question again. So you mentioned this in your superintendent comments that there were 2 intercessions for February and in April for the Boys and Girls Club. However, I received information that there was also a YMCA one in February. And so I guess I just want to make sure that maybe is the YMCA one no longer happening? Because as a parent, I did receive that. So do we know anything about that?
I want to look into that, make sure I'm not saying misinformation. So I will look into that and get back to you.
Okay, and I'm specifically saying that the information that I received, and I can forward you the email, showed that there would be intercession at Susan B. Anthony, I think another one at maybe Thomas Edison, or maybe it's a school in this area as well, but for the YMCA and not, basically Boys and Girls Club had their own, YMCA had their own, all in the same week, which is next week. So if you could
Right,
confirm,
I
that
will
would be great.
confirm that
Thank
for
you.
you.
And with that, I'll make a motion to approve this contract.
I'd like to second, but I had a quick question. Really quick, how many kids again are we serving during the intercessions roughly?
That's a great question. I will also follow up on that one
thank you.
for you.
Any other questions?
That was
Okay.
a second to the first.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimously approved.
Just
Aye.
to
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to note, I do see that the goal is to serve 80 to 100 students per week.
I do have an update. I just got one. Thanks, Bill. Thomas Edison will have an intercession as well.
Thank you.
And actually, and it's YMCA? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I
I just wanted to
apologize.
make sure.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Trustee Rashba. I had seen that. I just was curious because tomorrow, San Mateo County Office of Ed is invited all of the CBOs, which I think some of our providers will be there. And it's always interesting to know what the goal is and what our actual number is. And I think that Boys and Girls Club is one of the presenters tomorrow. So we're just curious. So thank you.
All right. Item 7D, Contracted Services, CAM Educational Services LLC. The administration recommends approval of the contract totaling $300,200 with CAM Educational Service LLC for the spring 2024 sessions. Schools participating are Ben Franklin, Daniel Webster, Fernando Rivera, Garden Village, George Washington, John F. Kennedy, M. Pauline Brown, Thomas Edison, and Woodrow Wilson. This program will be funded by the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. Do we have any questions before we entertain a motion?
I have a comment. I just wanted to say I'm excited to see this on the agenda. I actually have utilized CAM Educational Services separately outside of our district, and they provide really amazing, I would say, after-school or enrichment activities. And so to see that we're, I'm assuming, contracting them for, I guess, additional enrichment at these schools. I guess, can you confirm that is the case?
This is for the spring sessions. The first one was for the fall.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I'm excited to see that because I think at least my one kid loved it, and she was like, well, "Let's do it again." And I was like, "Oh, that's really expensive." But to see that we're offering it widely, I think that's going to be really amazing for the students. They're going to love it.
And I just wanted to comment, looking at some of the topics that will be covered, really, really great to get kids in the district working on 3D modeling, working with VR, robotics, these STEAM skills are really critical knowledge. So I'm very glad to see experience being gained there. And it seems like this would be a great opportunity for a future presentation here at the board.
All right, do we have a motion?
And I will move to approve the contract with CAM Education Services.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimously approved. Item 7E, contracted services, music for minors. The administration recommends approval of the contract totaling $59,717.80 with music for minors. Schools participating are Garden Village, George Washington, M. Pauline Brown, and Woodrow Wilson. Do we have a motion to approve or any questions?
Just one question. What is the funding source for this? Is this site funds?
This is funded from site funding.
Any other questions or comments before we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracted services with music for minors.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item 7F, Susan B. Anthony overnight camping trip. The administration recommends approval of the overnight stay request by grade 3 Susan B. Anthony classes. They will have at least 3 teachers from Susan B. Anthony and Wilderness School supervising 50 students at the San Bruno Mountain Park on May 2nd and 3rd, 2024. Any questions before we have a motion?
Will the students be in tents? Will they be in cabins?
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. I'd have to get back to you on that one as well.
Okay, no worries. And the only reason why I asked that, I'm hoping May is, a good, beautiful month and we're not storming. But if it's tense, then, we just need to be prepared for what the Bay Area beautiful weather decides to bring us.
They've been doing this for many, many years, and so I'm sure they're well accounted for that. And this is happening in May, so it's usually better weather
I
at that point.
figured, but you never know.
I will find out for you, though.
Thank you.
And I just had a quick question. I missed that this is a wilderness school that the high school district has. Are you able to say any more about that program? Are they teaching other high school students or younger students, or I don't know if anybody knows.
I will get back to you on this one. I apologize.
Just curious.
I
Just
wasn't
curious.
I know a
prepared to
little
answer
bit
this one.
about it. I know that it's housed at the same site as Thornton High School. So they have Thornton High School and then they have the Wilderness School on the same campus. And then I know they also have a lot of high school students that go as volunteers on those trips. So there's students from even South San Francisco School District that also go and volunteer on these kind of trips. So it's not just the adults, they also have teenage chaperones. But you can still find out more information. Okay. So do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve the overnight camping trip.
Second.
First and the second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item 7G, Single Plan for Student Achievement 2023-2024. The administration recommends approval of the single plan for student achievement for the following JESD school, Garden Village, as developed by their school site council and site staff members. Representatives from Garden Village School will share highlights from their school plan. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, that's a little too loud. Okay. Shall I do next slide on this, or do you do it? Okay. So as part of our SIPSA plan at Garden Village, the school side council and I met. This is our second meeting this year so far. And I wanted to share with all of you tonight what I've shared with my staff and school side council and parents, along with my PTA, some of our glows. So Garden Village student achievement highlights. On the most recent panorama survey that our students 3rd through 5th grade took in the 22-23 school year, we improved in 8 out of 9 areas for the social emotional learning component of the survey. I think the biggest glow we have here on growth were in school climate. We increased by 14% and grit 9%. And then when looking at our CASP data success for the 22-23 school year, our 4th graders last year, their CASP scores were at 35%. Those kids are in 5th grade. Last year, they moved from 4th to 5th, we went up by 18%. So we're very, very proud of the hard work we're doing in math, in ELA. And so for math, our successes for the 21-22 to the 22-23 school year, 21-22, 30% of our students in 3rd through 5th grade were proficient in math, and that went up to 36% last year. So our areas of growth this year is working on school attendance. In the 22-23 school year, we were at 92.48%, and so we have increased that this year by 93.94. Chronic absenteeism is still an issue. 22-23 school year, 25.6% of our students were chronically absent. This year, we've got it down to 21.85, and we're still working on that, using all the supports and systems that we have in place at our school. So our goals, which are aligned with the district goals, student achievement, parent engagement, and positive school climate. I want to talk about student achievement and our actions at Garden Village. We have funded a 50% additional teacher so that we are avoiding a split in the primary grades. Small group intervention happens every day in the classroom, as well as by teachers who, we have about 3 teachers this year who are doing after-school small group intervention in math. Our site leadership is focused on data-driven decisions when we meet once a month. I do admin walkthroughs, and I allow teachers, well, not allow, I really strongly encourage, and they're doing this, is to newer teachers who observe veteran teachers and vice versa. And then this year, we were able to hire an MTSS teacher to support our students also, not just in the MTSS process, but also with our dual language learners. In regards to parent engagement, this year we've had many in-person events. We just had a wonderful STEM family event, which you were at, Ms. Jordan, last night. So we're having more in-person events post-pandemic. We have a growing, strong PTA, and we're very happy about that. All the communications that we send to family through School Messenger, Class Dojo, our SMORE electronic newsletter is translated in many, many languages. We've also implemented Student of the Month, positive phone calls home. We have 84 positive phone calls home from Mrs. Haley since September, which is really, really good. And working with Luisa Santos on the Community Schools Grant. In regards to positive school climate, we are able to fund a full-time garden teacher for our garden science program, a side-funded clerk typist. We have a peacemaker program that's up and going. We implement the school-wide PBIS program. We have Spirit Days, school assemblies, field trips, full-time counselor this year, and then a music program for all grades, music for minors, in TK through 4, and then our 5th grade students receive their music from the district teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from board members?
I have a comment. I realize I missed a commendation. So I did attend the STEM affair last night at Garden Village, and it was amazing. I actually got too excited, and my kid was like, "Mom, you need to calm down." And I was like, "Okay, I'm having so much fun." So I want to commend, everyone that was involved to get that put together. It was absolutely awesome. I think you had a great turnout. And when I think of school climate, because of the turnout, you can see, everyone wants to stay at school. It's like, it's time to go, but it's like, no, let's hang out here because it's a safe place. And so it really feels good. It feels like a community. And with us even moving to community schools, we already feel that way. And so I'm really excited to keep moving that forward. And so I appreciate the call out of all of the glows and obviously the growth. There's always room for improvement. And so obviously let us know how we can help. I think chronic absenteeism is something that a lot of schools are dealing with. And so if we put our heads together, maybe we can figure something out. But thank you so much for the presentation. I'm really excited to see what Garden Village is going to continue to do.
Thank you.
I wanted to build on what Trustee Jordan said, and first of all, congratulate you on the GLOWs and the results you've achieved in SEL and the CASP and student outreach. That's tremendous. And as Trustee Jordan noted, the chronic absenteeism, probably a growth area district-wide, statewide. But I just wanted to dig in on that and ask if you've had any learnings on that. Any strategies or observations about what we can do to improve chronic absenteeism?
You are correct. It is district-wide. It's also nationwide. What we have found, because as you saw in the data, it is decreasing, is working with our school nurses and counselors and having family meetings and figuring out what the barriers are. We know with the younger students, their immune systems are still maturing and growing, so we do see more students absent in those grades in TK and kinder, but providing services for families, working with our school counselors. Many of our families are having a really hard time in Daly City trying to get appointments for their kids. And they're going to San Bruno and they're going to other places. So sorry? No, just to get their kid in to see a pediatrician. Right. So, it's wintertime. We have a lot of kids out. There seems to be a lot of viruses and sicknesses this time of the year again, but just working, with the resources that we have on site and bringing families in and trying to figure out and work with them what those barriers are has been a tremendous help to all of us at Garden Village. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say how much I appreciate hearing the glows and grows and seeing them. And I can imagine what the energy must feel like being in person, because I was excited just hearing and receiving your updates. I appreciate hearing too that when you look at a child's overall health, there are issues that are being impacted where our families are not able. I know that's an issue with Kaiser. I went to a Kaiser community meeting, and what I realized while it was South City and San Francisco, families that were in that meeting, 85% of that room were Daly City families. And the biggest problem was what you just mentioned here. And the reason why I bring that up, there was a recent meeting at NEMS, and NEMS said that they want to create a one-stop shop system where they put everything in-house, and they already serve a lot of our families. So the ask and the call to action when we say, how can we help? I think that's something that needs to be lifted. There was a meeting pre-pandemic and immediately after post-pandemic, and then the conversation died. I think the ask is to revisit it with our county supervisor who spearheaded that conversation, brought in the council and our local school districts on what are we doing to mitigate some of those issues, because it impacts the attendance and their learning, and it impacts your job and your team. So I appreciate hearing that. And I appreciate that we've been intentional about putting out call to actions as partners and how we're lifting up these issues and collaborating and building coalition around these things. So we're noting that. We're going to start putting that buzz because we want to be here to support you. But amazing, amazing updates. Really appreciate all the work that is happening there on the ground with you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to reiterate all the accolades. And I had a small question about, excuse me, school climate. I'm always very interested in that. I noticed that you had your site-funded clerk typist as part of your school climate. Can you talk a little bit about that?
When you have more people in the office working, you can serve your families and your caregivers in a smooth, efficient way. Students are seen to in an efficient way, whether they're coming in for an ice pack or a Band-Aid, and it just makes the whole office run a lot more smoother when we have a clerk typist there every day.
Okay, thank you.
Can I echo that statement? As someone that has come in because the child has left their lunch at home in the middle of the day, right? I will say that having someone at the desk available for latecomers or students that need a Band-Aid or a parent that's dropping off something in the middle of the day has been great. Not waiting at the gate for a long time. There's security, there's security, there's safety, and there's response in a fashion. And I think that that is definitely, hopefully helping this other site staff to focus on their roles and not have to do 2 to 3 different jobs at the same time. So.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the single plan for student achievement for the 2023-24 school year.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8E, resolution number 240214, notice of intent to grant an easement deed to PG&E for workforce housing project. The administration recommends approval of resolution number 240214, notice of intent to grant an easement deed to PG&E to energize a workforce housing project. Do we have any questions, or do we just have a motion?
Just want to make a quick comment. We obviously were there on Saturday and we were able to look at the units, and we talked about energizing. Obviously, when we went, there was no electricity. We went during the day. It was very sunny and open and bright, and so that was awesome. But to bring some light, literal light to those buildings, honestly, I'm so excited to open up. I'm like, rain, go away, so that April allows us to actually do what we need to do. So if there are no comments or questions, I am like, let's do this.
So do we have a motion?
Yes, I will motion to approve resolution number 240214, notice of intent to grant an easement deed to PG&E for workforce housing project.
I second the motion and the enthusiasm.
All right, we have a first and a second, and this requires a roll call vote.
Ms. Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Mr. Rashba,
Aye.
Ms. Jordan,
Aye.
Mr. Ali.
Aye. Unanimously approved.
Can I just say that we're on the same grid, and come on, PG&E. Come on, I'm actually meeting with PG&E next Wednesday, so I'm gonna, this is our grid. We 4 days. Loud.
So do we know when they're actually gonna, turn it on, flip the switch, whatever they're gonna do?
Yeah, so per ed code, the first step is getting the intent to grant an easement deed, of which, of course, you guys are aware and have passed an additional board meeting of which on the 28th, of which will grant that easement. So once that easement goes through, it'll get through their system. PG&E has a separate division that deals specifically with building out infrastructure. So we'll be on the list, and hopefully they can get through their projects to get to us in a timely fashion. So thanks again for adding that additional board meeting as we're trying to streamline and really get this through so we get finished out in this project that's been going on for a few years. Thank you.
Okay. So item 8F, Governor's Budget Update. Mr. Laurel, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, will present an update on the governor's January budget proposal for the 2024-25 school year.
Good evening. I'm getting over being sick, so bear with me if I'm not sounding very clear through the mask or if I have to clear my voice. So as you guys are aware with most of my presentations, I look at the macro environment and the economy and how does that cycle down through to the district. What I'm going over right now is the January governor's proposal for the budget for 24-25. This is the first step in a multi-step process in building out the state's budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2024-25. After this, as we get through the presentation, I'll go over what happens after the governor's budget. So in the U.S. economy, a lot was said about how there's some good growth in gross domestic product throughout the nation. The Dow Jones, there was great fluctuations in a positive direction. As you guys can recall from previous meetings, the S&P 500 and the stock market had been down slightly, but we've surpassed and are now at all-time highs, which is a good indicator for us, right? CPI, the Consumer Price Index, better known as inflation, is still up. A lot of economists are expecting interest rates to come down, but if the CPI and inflation rate still stays high, they're going to keep interest rates high to try to tamp that down, right? A lot of economists are saying that they're not going to forecast a recession in 2024, 2025. With that being said, there's still notable risk to the state's budget. So for the state, you know, the period of unprecedented revenue growth is over. From 21 to 2022, 2023, the stock market was reaching all-time highs, and of which we saw great revenue gains here in Prop 98, but for school budgets across the state. Right now, the governor's projecting a $37.9 billion deficit, and that's over 3 fiscal years. It's kind of confusing, but whenever the governor revises the current budget, they look at the upcoming future year as well as the current year as well as the prior year. The Legislative Analyst Office, they're projecting a 3-year budget deficit of $68 billion. So there's a big contrast there, which presents many, pitfalls for us to fall, like just traps for us. A lot of the revenues in the state are generated by personal income tax. They've revised those numbers down. If you guys are well aware, they've delayed tax receipts for 2023, which pushed out their expectations and their forecasts, and they're coming in lower than expected, which is not a good thing. The good thing is, through the last few years, the governor built up some pretty big reserves for which we can withdraw. He's not doing a lot of one-time investments for ongoing categorical funds. And, if we look at the California median house price, it increased 12.22% over 12 months. This is the highest in the nation, surpassing Hawaii. So let's talk a little bit about these reserves, right? There's 2 different ways. There's the general fund reserve, and then there's the public school system stabilization account, right? So that's only dedicated strictly for Prop 98, which is the funding vehicle for public schools in the state of California. With that being said, they've revised their numbers or the deposits into this account, and they're actually going to be withdrawing from this account by one trigger, the Prop 98 formula. The revenues aren't sufficient for the guaranteed money that school districts are supposed to get. So they're going to withdraw $5.7 billion in 2023-24 as well as 24-25. The good news is, as I get later on in the slides, is that it's not going to affect our budgets in the current year or next year. The bad news is the revenues aren't high enough to support, the threshold of money that we're supposed to be receiving, right? This is just the January budget proposal. Come May, things are going to change. Forecast for revenue. I just was watching a prior slideshow from the state, and the revenues are still continuing to fall, so more to come on whether or not they could continue to pull from this reserve account. One thing to note is that the balance in this account is still 3% of the total Prop 98, which means we still have a cap of 10% reserves instated across the state. However, we've done things to mitigate and be under the 10%, so we're good for the time being. As I said, the Prop 98, they're utilizing a lot of one-time funds via reserves to continue to fund schools at our current level across the state. The good news is that Governor Newsom is shifting things around to where like I said, we're not being affected. With that being said, because they're utilizing reserve money, how we would if we were in deficit spending, that money is only one time. So the big risk here is that if the revenues don't rise or we don't see any appreciations there, we're going to have the same continuous problem. So everybody at the state is kind of holding their breath. We're definitely prepared, and the state is also prepared for the worst, but we're hoping for the best. With that being said, we're going to have a 0.76 cost of living adjustment. Remember that the cost of living adjustment is looking in arrears behind at the consumer price index or inflation. It's a number set by the Department of Finance. Right now it's at 0.76. They're expecting it to be at about 1%. Remember that the cost of living adjustment isn't new money that we're getting. It's just as prices go up, the things cost more money. And so that's just to kind of tamp down the cost going up. There's not a lot of additional money. Like in prior presentations, I always say there's money, COLA for the California State Preschool Program, or just tons of different other categorical and restricted monies that we will be receiving. But right now, because it is a lean budget, a lot of new initiatives aren't being started. Another increased cost that we're looking to see is CalPERS and CalSTRS. If you guys are aware, if the returns aren't high enough in our pension systems to pay for all the retirees, what happens is our contributions rise to pay for those retirees' pensions. 10 years ago, this number was about 16%. Now it's continuing to rise to almost 30% in the next few years. So even if we were to not give a raise, the cost of those employees still continues to rise. Couple that with...
Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
So is that still a statewide problem, and what are they doing
Yeah,
to...
so Governor Jerry Brown, and I think from the years of 2015 to 2018, there'd be surpluses in the budget, right? So what they would do at the state level is they would buy down pension obligations, which would tamp down, these percentage rises. All we can hope is that how the money that's invested within these pension systems, they're hitting their targets of an 8% annual return. In years that they don't hit, in 2023, the stock market was down a lot and then it went up. If they don't recognize those gains, then we need to pay more into the pension system. CalSTRS rate is flat at 19.1% this current year and continuing through 25-26. So this slide here is the local control funding formula, LCFF. It's the funding vehicle of which we're funded. We have a base grant. We have additional supplemental and concentration monies if our students are at 30% and 65% unduplicated pupil percentages. We received money for TK, home to school transportation. And so how does that filter into our LCFF funding? So with all these different calculations, our ADA, our unduplicated pupil percentage, our entitlement for 24-25 is $60.2 million. That's our top line revenue. Our ADA is at 93.66%, which is an improvement over our prior year. And I think we are still trying to make gains on that front. Like I said in previous meetings, the historical average is 96.2%. There's still light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're still implementing things ongoing to make sure that students are in school. And so we're going to hope and really push that, these different things that we're doing to really grab these low-hanging fruits, because this can impact us in a positive way moving forward. So what's not included in the upcoming slide for our multi-year projection, any new program funding, any Prop 98 reductions, one-time revenues, any negotiated salary and benefit increases, further reductions in enrollments in ADA, other possible federal stimulus funding, right? So this is our multi-year projection for 23-24. So this is a copy of what you guys saw in our December meeting at first interim, right? However, what's changed here is the COLAs listed at the top. So originally at 24-25, we were looking at, I believe, a 3.84% COLA. That's been since reduced to 0.76% COLA. Same thing in 25-26, that was at about 3%, and now it's under 3%. And 26-27 is about 3.11%. So I've talked about it before, but the cost of living adjustments going down, coupled with the state's revenues being down, which means our revenues are down. We start to deficit spend in the upcoming year, but the 2 years following. The good news is prior Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Julie Kessler, we've built through time stable reserves for us for this exact scenario. So I'm confident that even though the state's budget is not really conducive to what we're trying to do, we still have the reserves to strategically use to make sure that services aren't cut, programs aren't cut, and we could really keep continuity through this economic storm. So here's a slide. I've shown it many times, but I just want to, sometimes it's good to see how our ADA and how the COLA affects our top line revenue, right? So in this slide at a prior meeting, from 2023 to 2024 and 24-25, between these two fiscal years, we weren't losing 6.16% of our revenue. We were losing, I think, like 1%, right? So as you can see, we're losing about $4 million next year in top line revenue, right? If you go back to the prior slide, that $4 million, we wouldn't be deficit spending, right? So the cost of living adjustment is a big deal moving forward. Other than that, yeah, I think that we're hoping that the taxes come in more stable. And like I said, this is just a snapshot in time. Things will change come May. And yeah, these are what we're looking at for top line revenue, actually reductions. So let's look at timeline and next steps. At the beginning of my presentation, I spoke about the process of the January governor's budget proposal. Next steps is during the March 13th board meeting, I'll be up here to talk about our second interim report, of which we'll update our multi-year projections and where we're spending. Some good news is we've recognized a lot more revenues in terms of interest. So the money that sits with the county treasury, we earn interest on it. So there's going to be some positives to it. There's going to be some negatives to it, but overall, you'll see at our second meeting out in March what the changes will be. We're still developing our LCAP plan with Assistant Superintendent Pam Scott. We need to have a public hearing in June regarding our LCAP and budget, as well as adopting it at the second meeting in June. The next steps too are what's going to happen at the May revision. We're hoping that the Legislative Analyst Office, as well as the governor's budget team, can give us more clear insights onto what's happening at the state level. Will we be losing revenue? Will we, gaining revenue? Are there going to be deferrals? We don't know yet. So, like I said, this is just a snapshot in time, and we'll update you as soon as we get all the pertinent information. Any questions?
I'll start on my right if there's any questions. No.
I'll ask a question. Thank you for the presentation. Sobering news, but important to be aware of. Looking at the enrollment slide, this year, wonderful that our enrollment actually went up by a few students. How great is your confidence that we will lose 150 or so students in the next year? Is that borne out by seeing less students in lower grades, like higher enrollment in exiting?
Yeah, certainly. The classes that came in, so let's go back, I don't know, we can go back 8 years, right? The incoming classes were a lot bigger than the incoming classes today. And so through a cohort-based declining enrollment method, right? So if you have 100 students in first grade, next year they're going to be in second grade. Just through that, filtering that through, the incoming students are at a lower number. And so, how much of a decline, that if I had a crystal ball, I'd be a rich man, right? But with that being said, all we can do is work closely with Mr. Brent, Assistant Superintendent Brent Marquez Valenti, and look at, as well as Technology Director Tony Baroni, and look at the enrollments that we're getting. We do have a lot more enrollments that are coming in, which is great. And, from the state level, they're widening TK, the age, and making universal TK accessible. So we're getting kids at a younger age. But it's really, this is just, it is what it is through the state, right? And San Mateo County, across all counties in California, San Mateo County is one of the highest, has the highest loss, or one of the highest loss of students countywide. That's why we have first interim and second interim and budget. We show the budget twice, is because we're always looking and changing our assumptions, right? What I'm showing here today, it could be the same, or it could be better or worse than next time I present it. So as we get information, we utilize all the different resources we can to make the most educated guess.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you for giving us the update. I know that this is just that, an update, and this is not final, and so we'll see what the final looks like.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So the multi-year projection, so I know you use the word deficit spending, but when we talk about strategic use of reserves, so 2024 to 25, the net increase, what's that, 644? That's okay. So that's already this coming year. What can we do to not have this third year, 2026 to 27? Is there anything we can do to not have this continuous use of strategic use of reserves?
So one thing about declining enrollment, right, is, and as with teachers who've been here for 20 years, 20 years, or they're aging towards retirement, what happens is we have attrition, right? We don't need as many teachers, but then some of those teachers they retire. And so we capture a lot of those teachers who retire and we spread the butter across the piece of toast and move teachers around to be where they need to be. Additionally, when you're looking at these deficit figures, right, we budget to spend 100% of the money that's allocated, right? So through the year, sometimes things don't happen, positions aren't hired. So as we move through the year, we recognize those savings. So I'm hesitant to say that this is, like I said, this is a snapshot. The last couple of years that we've gone over our multi-year projections, most importantly, I think 2021, 22, we were projecting like a $5 million deficit. However, because of all the federal stimulus money, we not just offset, but also supplemented a lot of the different things that we were doing. So we ended up recognizing about, I think it was a $6 or $7 million surplus, okay? So sometimes things don't shake out, they don't materialize through the end of the year. So a $600,000 deficit, to me, I mean, there's a high probability that, we're not going to spend $600,000 somewhere. And, right?
So for me, it's more looking at, the whole chart. So I want my fellow trustees to understand and feel me here. So it's increasing, and we're just allowing it to be presented to us as if we're accepting that. So I'm just putting it out there that I'm already feeling uncomfortable because it's this next year. So we need to start having more conversations about we're spending more money than we're bringing in. So we have to have other conversations. Yeah. How are we raising more revenue, not just responding to losing students?
I want to say thank you because the question that sat with me was what you raised. But the reason why I didn't ask it is because, one, this is a lot to digest. And I believe that this was a question that was asked before where we knew that a lot of it was based on the declining enrollment. And this is why we started digging before and where we were actually tasked to do budget cuts from our seats. I will say, because what I was holding, because I was thinking of what to ask, is a lot of the contracts that we're approving. And the reason why I bring this up is because we look at the programs that we do outside of our classrooms. And the conversation that County Office of Ed, we're talking about race and equity tomorrow and how we're investing in our communities and our schools and our students. And one of the highlights tomorrow, why I'm interested in attending, is they were talking about the programs after school, outside of the classroom. But I just know that a lot of these enrichment programs you just spoke to, that our students thrive and they love them, and there's a lot of learning that goes on there. But as a nonprofit that serves and we figure out how that cost doesn't hit so hard on the family, but also how we ensure that we keep our doors open, I imagine we're trying to figure out the same thing. But the reality is that I do think a study, I'm going to put it out there, I think a study session needs to go back. We talked about this a few meetings back, about what are we funding. It came up when we started seeing all of these programs that were coming in and new contracts. Not to say that we're not contracting great organizations that are providing a great service. But I would imagine that, as you said, President Ali, when we start looking at tightening our belt, I would look at outside of our classrooms first, even though these are programs. But I would think all these new contracts that I've seen come in, I would say I'd like to comb through those before I touch teachers, before I touch classrooms. And I would hate to say we got to cut some, but I also think that we could be a little bit more strategic when we're tightening our belt in areas such as that, using that as an example. And the reason why I didn't lift what else can we do is because I know that a lot of this is primarily impacted by declining enrollment, but not to say that there are other ways we can be creative to allocate differently, but that's still yet to be seen. And I'm thinking that I'm going to have more questions next month before we get through the March 13th approval or looking at it again. But I put that on the table to ask that, that I hope that we could look at other programming that's impacting what we spend money on outside of our classrooms first.
Yeah, I mean, my comment to that, or the comment to that would be a lot of the big ticket items that you're seeing, with Boys and Girls Club, CAM Education, these are funded by the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, which wasn't cut by the governor. So that is outside of what you're seeing here. This is restricted monies for a specific purpose. So those programs are living and breathing in an environment where we're not deficit spending in that to where it has to come from our general fund. Some of the things that are impacting us is we saw a 20% increase in our medical benefit premiums year over year. That's $1 million tacked on to this current year of what, so in this environment, inflation was high in the last couple of years, but a lot of the different services, baseline services that we're receiving in terms of paying for PERS, paying for medical benefits, like we're seeing big increases on those. I mean, granted, we also did give, substantial raises in this current year and the prior year. Prior to that, we didn't give raises. So, there's a lot that goes into just this picture. And, I have all the confidence in the world that our cabinet, we're making decisions that are going to ensure the continuity of services in our baseline programs as well as our outside the classroom services. And so,
If I may add to that, what he's mentioning about, we're actually having these conversations about right-sizing our district right now. And so I think that goes to what you're concerned about with, we can't keep what we have because our enrollment is declining. So we need to make sure that our staffing fits our student population. So we know that we have a couple years to figure it out without fully disrupting the system. So we're already starting those conversations with cabinet, with our administrators right now. And so, but we can also bring it to a study session for the board to have input as well. But just know that we are already seeing this and thinking the same thing.
So I guess I'm just looking at this agenda to see. So this is an information item. We're not taking action on this. And so the main reason why I guess didn't have comments earlier is because I've been on the board for 4 years, and every time this slide comes up, there's always deficit spending year 3 and year 4. I've noticed it. It happens all the time. And then when we do the final, it changes because it's constantly fluctuating. I think the other thing that I wanted, because I guess I'm not extremely concerned, at least yet, because I'm not taking action on this right now. I'm being informed of what's possibly going to happen based on what the governor's proposed budget is, not his final budget, right? And so at some point in the future, we all have the ability to not agree with the budget that comes in front of us when we decide to take action on it, right? And make sure, am I correct,
Yeah, you're
Ms.
correct.
Valero? Okay.
Yeah.
So then secondarily, I noticed you, and I appreciate you saying that this for the Boys and Girls Club and the CAM is coming from the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant. And I noticed that on the Music for Minors, we did not explicitly say where the funding was coming from for that, but we did say for the Susan B. Anthony's overnight trip. So it would be really helpful if for everything that we're spending additional funding on, that we notate where it's coming from so that we as a board know that it's covered from a grant versus coming from our unrestricted or unduplicated. And I think,
unrestricted general fund.
yes, perfect. Thank you.
I wanted to piggyback. on
Perfect.
that, because you had mentioned outlining, looking at what we are deficit spending on, and it's hard because when we get the reports, so you go through it's hundreds of pages of things. Categorically speaking, we don't see exactly what you're saying, what they belong to. So knowing that if it's ELOP, knowing that, we're able to fund it differently, it really does help because it also helps us make better informed decisions, how we're able to allocate funding or assist in giving direction and how some of that should be allocated. So I like that, and I just want to second that I appreciate having things outlined based on how they are funded into our budget.
Yeah, and one other thing to comment on what you're saying, how it fluctuates through the year. I mean, 21, 22 is just a great year to bring up because we were coming through a point where Governor Newsom was saying that they were going to cut our LCFF funding by 10% at the beginning of the year, right? And it wasn't until they actually approved the budget in like June, July that they're like, oh, actually, we're going to give you that 10% back. And so that was like a $5 million loss for us. And then we approved the budget, but then afterwards, it's like a $5 million swing in the positive. So, you know, I don't want to call it a guessing game, but it's like an educated guess. And we're always just trying to stay on top of it with the information that's given to us from the state, other agencies that we work with. And so, you know, like Superintendent McCulloch had said, we're always trying to look at this and try to make, you know, educated decisions in which way we're going and try to address them before they become a festering problem. So
100%. So the last thing I'm going to say on that, or actually two last things I'm going to say on that is I appreciate that statement because I do agree that it would be important for us as a board to do a study session just to get ahead of it. I'm totally fine with that. However, I'm noting that this is an informational item, and just to make it jovial, it's kind of like the weatherman, right? The weatherman's like, it's gonna rain all day, and then it doesn't rain. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just wore my rain boots, I wore all of this stuff, and it didn't happen, right? And so I have realized over the course of the 4 years I've been on the board that literally year 2, 3, 4 always has red numbers, and at the middle of it, at least since I've been on the board, and it changes, and I'm like, okay, so I got all stressed out, only for them to say, oh, never mind, we're going to give you this money, or oh, here's some one-time funding we didn't think we were going to give you. And so I'm trying to be less reactive and see what's going to happen. And again, once you come here with me making an action, I'm not going to probably have the same reaction if the deficit spending is still there.
One more comment,
Yeah.
Ali, is that I want to say that timing is key, because you just mentioned too, the governor's budget comes out, we talk about it, we touch it January, February. We don't, like you said, we actually don't really move on it until July. Yeah, and so I think looking at the timing of a study session and how we would frame it based on the timeline would be key, because we probably shouldn't be combing or touching it until, like you said, there's going to be a lot of movement. And you've also shared, Mr. Lauro, I appreciate that. It's just anchoring me again to remind me that there is a timeline that we have no control over. It's just the system that we belong to. So timing of a study session down the road, if even at all at that time, would make sense then, not immediately. So thank you, Mr. Lauro.
Okay, good. Yeah, so this is good discussion. I just want to frame what I'm saying. So what I'm bringing up is looking at a pattern. So if I see 2 years, 3 years out that we keep seeing this and it's increasing, I'm not comfortable. I'm always going to speak up about it, because we actually get to control this. And then we need to talk about or ask questions and strategize amongst each other about how to raise revenue, not just react. So we had a foundation that was coming and talking to us publicly about, our wish list, basically. So we need them back at the table. Hopefully, even when we eventually have a study session, let's try to invite some of those potential partners. And then we also need to be putting the pressure and influence on these state legislators, not just giving our endorsements to them and showing up at events. And no, they need to be doing some real work for us. We don't have to just accept the money that we're getting. We should be demanding more. It's not for us. We don't want the money. We want it for our students and for the community. So that's why I stopped us, because I saw a pattern developing 3 years out, and whatever that timing is to have a study session, I'm all for it. But I agree, it should be the right timing. But we need to get ahead of it at all times, whatever we see when it comes to the budget, because we're the trustees, we're fiduciary responsibility, and we have to be prudent with the money. So anyway, do you have any other thing to add, or?
I want to commend the district actually for the, as I see it, improved marketing efforts that I've seen this year. And, you know, we don't have the benefit of having a huge marketing budget, but I do think that, you know, with the tagline, welcoming safe and engaging schools, that's been effective. And, you know, I think we should continue to get out there in front of every, you know, preschool, pre-kindergarten program that we can, every audience, to try to market the district in a cost-effective way, to do all we can to stem that declining enrollment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Item 9A. I was trying to avoid this one. Certificated retirement 2023-2024. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from Reza Bell, Principal Thomas Edison, effective 10/14/2024, and requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending Ms. Bell for her years of service with the district. Ms. Bell has been employed by the district since 10/13/2014. Do we have any questions, comments before we have a motion?
Thank you very much. I just want to say thanks to Riza. She's always been a partner of mine, a thought partner, as well as a colleague when I was a principal. And she's been with us on our AFT negotiating team and gone down and worked with us, and even named the new Team Together Everybody Achieves More moniker for our labor management group that we're working with. She's a leader amongst leaders with her peers as admin. I know everybody looks to her for support and for advice, and she's always on my short list of calls. And we're going to miss having you around, even though you'll be around for a little bit longer. We'll keep you busy till, the 13th of October. I can promise you that. But I want to wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. And your partner over there, who I only see your arm once in a while as it comes up. And just thanks for all you do. And you'll be missed and always well thought of here with us in Jefferson. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions?
I'd like to share a comment. I'm going to say that we can't approve this. I say that because we want to hold on to the good ones for as long as we can. Not to say not everyone's good, but when you get a shining star like Miss Bell, so you've been here just as long as I've been on the board, and I will tell you, your commitment, your energy to our families, to your team members, to our district, and the community that you've helped build. I just want to say thank you. Just thank you. It's a thankless job. You know that, we know that. We know that, but you've been wearing those shoes. You've been carrying that cross, carrying and walking through a lot of the crossroads that you faced in your team on site. You've been through a pandemic in this district, and you weathered those storms. And I know my voice, along with a lot of the families and the students and the colleagues that have been fortunate to work alongside you, feel the same. I'm honored to be able to call you friend. I look forward to what's in store for you. It's wonderful to be able to say, I've done this, I'm good, I'm moving on to newer heights. So I just want to just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for, educating our community, for honoring our families. Your work will always be remembered. I wish you all the best.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I want to echo my fellow trustee. She spoke about your energy. It's like you're like a ray of sunshine through our interesting weather. And I didn't get the chance to work with you a lot, but from what I saw, I was like, oh, wow, she's she's always this passionate and sunny, and so it's going to be a loss for us, but I'm really excited to see what you're going to do in your future, and hopefully relax and get to spend more time with your spouse, and good luck on your future endeavors.
Yes, congratulations on a job well done. We're sad for us, but of course we're happy for you. Looking forward to seeing, as Ms. Jordan says, what your next steps are. Of course, stay in contact with us and let us know what's going on and that you're doing all right. So thank you so much. I don't know, Ms. McCulick, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate her as well. I know that her number is on speed dial from many of our principals. She's the one that a lot of our principals and colleagues reach out to. I've appreciated her positive energy, her spirit. She has also been the facilitator of our Jefferson Administrator Association with socials, and her and Lisa Zamiga have always tried to bring the community together. So we appreciate you as part of our community, and we are going to miss you and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And we're very jealous of what you're going to be doing. And I believe you have a few words you wanted to share. Do you want to approve her retirement before she speaks?
Let's see what she says.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, who'd like to make the motion?
I hesitantly make the motion to approve the recommendation by the administration to approve the well-deserved and well-earned retirement request from Ms. Riza Bell, Principal, TE, effective this October 14th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
I remembered to turn it on this time. The last time I spoke to you guys, I didn't turn on the mic and no one could hear me. So now you can hear me. I feel like I'm up here about to make my Oscar speech. I want to thank, if I talk too long, have someone drag me off. But I have a lot of people to thank. The decision to retire is not easy. I'm still torn in many ways. It's hard to leave such a wonderful district. I want to thank the board for all your hard work helping make JESD a wonderful place for our students and for giving me the opportunity to be here and working with you. I want to say how much I appreciate the cabinet and your guidance and mentorship. I'm grateful for the trust and confidence you have all put in me and all the help you've given me throughout the 10 years. I want to thank my fellow administrators. Their hard work and dedication, along with our collaboration and their sense of humor, has made working here a dream. But most of all, I'm really going to miss Thomas Edison and the Thomas Edison community. Our teachers and staff are so dedicated. They always want to do what's best for the student and do what's right. Our parents are incredible. They're our partners in the education and are so helpful in ensuring the school is successful. And of course, my students, they are hardworking, resilient, and make me smile every day because they're also hilarious. Lastly, I want to thank my family and of course my husband for their support and understanding while I worked the crazy long hours and on weekends or waking up at 2 a.m. worried about something going on at school. So although I'm torn about leaving, I'm also very excited about our new adventure and also about having time to play with my perfect grandson. So it's going to be great, but I'm going to miss you guys all terribly. And I will let you know what we're doing because it involves the old Victorian back east, and we'll have guest rooms, so you can come visit me. Thank you.
All right. Item 10A, classified personnel retirements. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from the following employees and requests appropriate resolutions be prepared commending them for their years of service with the district. Nuha Hannah, instructional assistant, ASPWW, date of hire 12/18/2008, effective January 10th, 2024. And Rodolfo Granados, custodian 2 at FDR, date of hire 12/09/1991, effective February 1st, 2024. Mr. Valenti, did you want to?
Yeah, both of the folks have had very special relationships over the years. Nuha, who worked in our after-school program at several of our schools, was always really focused on helping our students after school, as we talked about. You know, it's a place to be, you know, kids, they need a good place to be after school with their friends, and she was always there, and I wish her great times in her retirement. Rudy, he's just something else. He comes in and just takes up the room. He's so energetic, always worked hard, always so dedicated to the students up at FDR, where I've really known most of the time that he's been working, as well as other tasks that he's taken on. So I just want to make it clear that how much we appreciate their work. And we're so fortunate as a district to have folks that will stick around and really put in the time and spend their lives here, really. And I just hope they have a wonderful retirement, and best of luck to them both.
I have a question. So you said Rudy, is that the custodian who set up that garden and everything?
Yeah,
at a-
the chickens and everything, that's them.
Do we have to approve these things?
Okay. So do we have a motion?
Not good motion. But on that note, moving us along, I will make the motion as recommended by the administration to approve the retirement of, is it Nuha Hana, and Rodolfo Granados.
I will second and say thank you for their service to the district.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion unanimously approved. I guess it's my turn. Board Professional Development, Board Study Session. Board member Shakil Ali, myself, will highlight some of my learnings as well as give a report about my attendance at the CSBA conference in San Francisco from November 30th to December 2nd. And I'll keep it pretty brief. So I was able to go to the CSBA conference again. I've been several times in San Diego. I've been to here at Moscone Center a few times as well. And it was nice to have it back in San Francisco. That was really great. So I'm gonna just basically go into what the workshop I went to the day before the conference was for experienced board members. And I'll just summarize the most important part, which was we talked about giving our best advice to new board members. So it took me back to my very first night on the board, which was full of controversy. I know you can relate to that. But I never will forget Hans Hansen, who he had this statesman demeanor and attitude, and I remember he told me to just sparkle. He said, "Can you sparkle?" And I said, "I guess so." He said, "Just sparkle." And then the other advice that he gave me was to have fun, and I never forgot that. So I'd like to give that same advice to the new trustees and seasoned trustees as well, that we should sparkle up here and have fun with it. And it asked us to reflect on the advice we were giving and how it was delivered. And I said that it was delivered in a sincere and lighthearted fashion. So, and I get serious here, even tonight, about the budget and whatnot, but, I want to also remain sincere and stay lighthearted about all of this. And what made that impactful for me was that that night it gave me a lot of confidence and set me at ease to take on my responsibilities because I was made the vice president my first night on the board. And how it affected me in my role as a member on this team is that I believe that I've done both things. I've sparkled and I've had fun. And it helped me to continue serving on this board for 12 plus years. And so it says, how does your thinking about the best advice you received inform how you would think about onboarding new members of your governance team? And I said I would just repeat those words to those board members, give them the same advice that I was given. So sparkle and have fun. Now we will go to governance team member comments, reports, and board meeting reflection, and also we'll add on their future agenda items. Start on my left.
I just want to thank fellow trustees for engaging in passionate and informed conversations. I will say that this year I think we've always had conversations, whether they've always been engaging and passionate in a positive way. I'm not sure that was always the case. And so I will say that this year has been very, refreshing is what I will say, is that we are, even though we all don't think alike, even though we all have a variety of thought, we engage with respect. We are all giving space for us to speak our truths, and thinking through, well, what does this mean for the future of our board, even with the board ever being an ever-changing board? And so I just want to say thank you for an engaging and passionate conversation tonight, because if we all thought the same, then we would be a board of all yeses, and that's not the kind of board that we hope to be. And then next week, all of our students are out. And so I wish everyone a safe President's Week. Hopefully you stay healthy and well. I know, I think we mentioned a couple of times this evening that people are getting sick. Obviously, the rain is probably not helping with that. And so hopefully everyone enjoys a safe and healthy week away from school. And then they're back on Monday so that we can help with our not having chronic absenteeism right after a holiday. And with that, I'll pass it on to another trustee.
Yeah, I certainly concur with sentiments expressed by Trustee Jordan. Very productive discussion tonight. And I just want to note and add that we had a very productive discussion this past Saturday for our annual board governance, retreat. And we spent that time really engaging in some self-reflection, on how each of us can do better, how we as a board can improve. So I'm really glad to hear the board moving in everyone thinking long-term in addition to, the short-term decisions and concerns we need to approve at every board meeting, but thinking about what's the future of the district, what's the future of the board. I think those are all good and productive conversations. So thank you.
All of that and then some. I loved seeing this. That comes from conversations, and they live outside of those conversations. And I think that's what we're doing much more intentionally here. And it's very meaningful. And tough meetings come to me when I say goodbye or see you laters to good people. And even Rudy, that hit me. I'm glad you asked, because I was like, wait, is that the Rudy? And you just want to wish good people continued greatness and goodness, but you get emotional, but I think back to our district and what we've come from, and it's pretty tremendous stuff that's happening here. And I will say, talking to fellow colleagues in the community, not all of them can always say that. We've hit bumps in the road, but I love hearing your wisdom that you are outpouring to new trustees and also to some of us who've been around a little bit longer. It's important to remember to sparkle because this is great work and it requires for us to shine. So I love that. I really love that. I agree. Saturday was a great time for us to be in space together and be reflective because we don't get to always do that from this seat and in this space. But Saturday was good. And I appreciate that time for us to get to know each other better too. And I just sit with deep gratitude of belonging to a wonderful community. I'm very grateful for that. And I just want to say it again and again, because a lot of times we just go about our lives and we forget to say thank you. And I want to say thank you. I have 2 shout outs. I want to say thank you to, actually I have 3. I will start with our president. I want to say thank you to President Ali for keeping us on course and bringing us back to ensuring that we pay attention and dig deeper. Sometimes we're like, okay, we probably dig into it a little bit later, but I'm glad you did that. And I'm glad that we hold each other accountable that way. So I appreciate that. I want to thank our superintendent. I think a lot of the new things that we're seeing or things that have been strengthened is coming from your leadership. And I want to say thank you. I love the vibe. I will tell you, I hear it, I feel it. I hear it from community members. I hear it from others outside of our district, other leaders who sit on their boards. And I want to say thank you and how proud I am. I also want to say my last thank you to Mr. Heath. When I pass by every day, especially on sunny days, because I'm grateful that work can, when I see that gate open, I'm like, yes, because the sun's out. When I see it closed because the weather, I'm like, man. But when I go around the district and I see the improvements, a lot of times we only see what we see and we don't see the people behind all of these things that require action. And it's so important that we thank those who are facilitating the action that we only see out front. We have to remember those who are in the back, who are keeping their head down and keeping things focused and keeping the team moving. And I just want to say thank you, Mr. Heath. We can't wait to open those doors and hold PG&E accountable to keep our lights on. So thank you all. Happy Valentine's. Hope you guys get to enjoy some more time with your loved ones today. It's not 12 o'clock yet, so enjoy.
Thank you. I also want to commend our superintendent and all of us for the Saturday board self-evaluation, but also acting so quickly and changing up this slide. There's going to be more changes hopefully to come. So that is what I wanted to propose as a future agenda item, is for us to, how would you say it, to revise this slide that we're showing every meeting.
So I think you wanted to more focus on the guidelines as opposed to the goals. Is that
Right.
true?
Yeah,
So
and I
maybe-
think we wanted was it the district priority?
LCAP priorities.
Yeah, the LCAP priorities to be on the other side.
Well, that will be a presentation at the next meeting anyway. So it
Perfect.
could be maybe a conversation related to that, but I can.
On that agenda item? Okay, perfect. Sound good to everyone? Okay. All right, and then I also want to just say that we did a good job of keeping our focus on the best interests of the students. Is that it? Okay, so we will adjourn the meeting at, what is it, 8:34?
We're convening to close session, actually,
Okay.
in honor
Well-
of, in memory of,
I didn't get that.
it's on the back of your agenda.
Okay, sorry. So we're gonna convene to close session.
Flip the page, you'll see. Sorry.
Okay. So actually, we'll have a moment of silence in memory of Alexis Malave, son of Frank Malave, instructional assistant of PE at George Washington Elementary School.
So we're convening to
con-
closed session
We'll
at,
convene to closed session in 3 minutes.
so 8:35, we